Welcome back to Road to Resilience, recapturing the athlete's focus. I'm Luke Luttet, and I'm here with Mark Rigg and Brad Harmon. How you guys going?
Good, mate. Good. All good.
All good. Love it. So, this podcast here is, we thought we should touch on values, and what you value is what you'll see. And let me explain that for a second. Is whatever you put forward, whatever you put on your list of values, you will do. Even if you haven't done your list of values, you will see it. So, for an example, right now, and we just said this off air, funny enough, is that Mark, obviously at this point in time, because he's coaching at national level, and even Brad to an extent, during a certain period of time, playing at national and international level, you guys would have to put your sports first in lots of instances away from your family. Would you agree?
Yeah, you do.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, and you couldn't not do that to be as good as you are, could you?
That's right. In hindsight and looking at it now, yeah, you're right, 100%.
Yeah. So right now, the value in sport is higher than the value of family. And eventually that will shift, I'm sure of it. However, because that's the sort of people you guys are, that's where values is going to shape your life. So when we before in the last podcast we were talking about balance and the balance between life and sport. This here is where we get maximum value out of understanding how to create balance. Would you agree with that?
Definitely.
Yeah. So let me just sort of get an understanding of what you guys think values are. Whoa.
Interesting one.
Yeah.
Um,
We haven't really discussed this for anybody out there, and I'll put the boys under a bit of pressure here. But the reason why I'm putting these guys under pressure is I would imagine you guys, the listeners out there, would be thinking very similar things.
I've been thinking a little bit about this recently, and looking back on my journey, the one thing that I valued was success. And we've spoken about how we are and how I was away from the baseball field, and how I was dictated by my success or lack thereof at the field that day. So that was what I placed the most value on, was how well I did that day, and it took away from who I was as a person, and all it was I'm a baseball player, and if I was good, then that's great, I'll be a good person away from the field. So speaking of values and how I look at it, obviously everyone's going to value their family and their friends and wanting to be a good person. Really getting down to it, for me, I've started to think that I'm valuing honesty and trust are high on my list of values. And when I look at those two words, how I can translate that, being honest with my family, more importantly myself, and where that can take me, and trust, having the trust of my family and allowing them to trust me to make the right decisions and do the right things. Now, having those values as an elite athlete, being honest with myself, trusting myself, trusting my support network, trusting in my processes, those two words and two values could take me so far and would allow many things to open up without being keyholed back into, well, I'm valuing success. And having those two values and they are two things that when I look at my life, they're really important to me, and I seek trust, certainly from my family and my friends, and I want them to be able to trust me, and that's really important for me. Being honest is, again, really important. So, yeah, just thinking back to my career, I wonder how things might have gone a little differently if I had have sat down and looked at what I valued, acknowledged, accepted, and then how I could have placed those into my life away from the field, at the field. It would have allowed me to take accountability a little more often than what I would have, and just see things in a different light. And at the end of the day, go home, was I an honest person today? Was I trustworthy? And did I earn trust? And perhaps based our day and our successes around what we value, certainly things would have been different.
Definitely. What do you reckon, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree any more with everything you just said. Honesty, trust, teaching, educating, love, all of those things are things that we all value but take for granted, and just assume that everyone else is on that same path. So to have it out there, to put it out there, and to gauge your success by how you met those values on any given day is a brilliant way to look at it.
Yeah.
Really good.
And it's got to be ecological. Everything we do has got to be ecological. And what I mean by that is ecology is the study of consequences. So whatever we do, and this is one thing I really love to understand in athletes and people in general, is did you do it for you? Did you do it for others? And did you do it for the greater good? Because if you can tick all those off, then that's great. A lot of athletes can only tick off the first one. Would you agree with that? They only tick off the bit where it's about them, it's about something I can hang on the wall, and so their value in themselves, or their value in their sport, or their value in into what they've given to the sport is higher than what they've given to people in general. Does that make sense, or am I just talking crap?
No, that makes sense, and that's drilled into you as an athlete. You're striving for the trophy. The trophy defines who you are and how good you were, rather than giving back in and being that good person that you're talking about. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, how did you guys get through that period? Because you're both on the other side of that now, where, yes, you're still striving for greatness, and you'll never stop, I don't think, as an athlete, but you guys look at it a very different perspective now, wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure. And as I just touched on before, I didn't have these values and I didn't identify what I valued, except acknowledge and strive to those values. It was other areas that I based my evaluation on and whether I was successful. And baseball is one of those sports where it's absolutely a business in America, so we're conditioned to be selfish, and even when we're playing a team game, there's always that piece of you that you're in it for yourself. So having these values and why they're so important, and even in today, so now when I play with the Melbourne Aces in the Australian Baseball League, and if I look at honesty and how that can reflect on me as a teammate, as a person, and I put it into a situation where I may not be particularly happy with how a teammate might be going about the way they're playing, whether they ran hard down the line or whatever the case may be. And I've got a choice whether to be honest with my teammate and let him know that that's not acceptable and that's not how we do it, or I'm not being honest and I let it slide. So if I'm not being honest, how's that going to affect me? I'm not going to like it. I'm probably going to start to dislike that teammate for what he's doing. That's going to allow a culture within our team to start to build. So by me valuing my honesty, being able to have a discussion with my teammate, all of a sudden that might nip that in the butt. We're going to continue to have a team culture that we're proud of and that we're striving for, and I'm going to appreciate the fact that I was a good teammate and I was honest. And he might appreciate that, maybe not at the time, but I'm going to appreciate the fact that I was being honest and I was doing it in the right way. All of a sudden, our culture, our team building is going in a positive direction. Rather than me choosing not to be honest with that particular teammate or person, things start to fall apart.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's massive. That's huge. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're both a little gobsmacked with that one. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, if we were to split this down the line, and could you have separate values for being an athlete when you put on the boots, and having a set of values for you as a person in your life?
I don't think so.
No?
I think they
Crossover?
I think you are who you are.
Yep.
And the way that you just talked about that, Brad, is amazing. To think that I've never thought about it in that respect, that honesty is something that most of us, I would hope, would value, and to do that and to take it to that extreme is incredible. And that just proves that somewhere along the way, I'm sure you as a younger player were that as well, and you did value honesty, and you just didn't know about it quite the way you do now. So I think that unless you're bipolar, you probably couldn't have two sets of values, one as a person, one as an athlete. I think that's what makes you good as an athlete. If you're a good athlete, then you obviously have good values. Maybe you just don't know how to articulate that or how to go about working those out. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the day, you're placing your values on you as a person, and then within each area of your life, you'll be able to work out and determine how to put those values to use and how you reach those values and what areas you are looking for and striving for. So the value of love or compassion, when we look at it from a family perspective, it's being there for our partner, our family. Whereas as an athlete onto the field, that might be becoming a bulldog and becoming white line fever. We're doing the same thing. We're showing our teammates that we're there. We're supporting them. So that doesn't mean that behaviour might need to be tweaked from here or there, but ultimately you will have the same values as a person. It's just learning how to place those values and those actions within each environment of our life.
Cool. And were you guys, I'm curious to understand this bit here, being that this is such a good conversation, were you guys aware of your values when you were playing at your highest, at your peak?
No, I was not.
No?
Definitely not.
No, me either. And that was a problem. And looking back on it, and it's easy to become self-consuming because we're not sure what success looks like. We know the parameters, we know the external successes, we know that we need to hit these KPIs to be successful, but at the end of the day, how many times and I would go home just feeling really poor. I was a bad baseball player today and I was a bad person. And I put no value on the giving aspect of life and the fact that I should be able to go to the field and have a bad day and walk out of there being a good person. But without those values, identifying, acknowledging, it's really easy to get lost and not have anything else to go for. So I certainly didn't identify my values and strive to hit those values on a daily basis. I was a baseball player. That's what I was.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, and that is powerful. You so many athletes, and I've done this. I mean, we could shoot all over ourselves. Ultimately, we could shoot it, we should have, we could have, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's identifying that has happened. This is where I am. This is where I'm moving forward because I understand what it is that makes me. That's in my core. That's something that I value. So how can we go about creating our values? One thing that I would suggest is grabbing a piece of paper again and just listing a whole lot of values, whatever it is that is important to you. The one key thing here is I would understand that I have in the past seen in other people when they do their values is they try and list them in order from the start. I wouldn't just slap them on a piece of paper, just as many as you can, and then with the second list, then put them in order of importance. When you guys were coming up through the ranks and playing at your peaks and all that sorts of thing, did you guys have role models that you tried to learn from and recognize what they valued so that you could be the same? Maybe you didn't quite understand it at the time as values, but did you recognize that this is this person that's doing this thing, I want to be able to do that. Now, how did they do it?
Well, yeah, we definitely had role models. Whether I saw it in exactly that light, I wouldn't have thought that I did. I had people that I looked up to that I wanted to be like and to pitch like and to be as good as. Did I take on their values or find out what they valued? No, I didn't. And that's probably why it took a long time to get to where I got to, because I didn't understand that. And I think a lot of people don't still understand that in their everyday life, whether you're an athlete or a school kid or a parent. We forget in the moment what we do value, and that's where you lose your way, I think.
Yep. What about you, Brad?
Yeah, I was the same. And there probably wasn't specific role models. I just looked up to the guys that played Major League Baseball. And so it's the same thing. I'd watch them on TV and try and emulate. So I would try and hit the way this guy hit because he was successful. And, even talking to the guys that I was able to work with at my local clubs that had gone away and played top level sport, it was never about what the value, because I suppose we see the result and the proof of statistics as what defines success. And as we sort of discussed, it's a changing landscape in sport, and we're starting to realise how important discussing these things are, and they're crucial. So I certainly didn't ever talk to anyone about values, although I wish I did.
Yeah, cool. So, and that's what I wanted to add. So we've got three different lists. So our first list is our values. Then the second list is 1 to whatever, whether you got 10, whether you've got 2, it doesn't matter. We'll just list them in order. And then the last list is how would somebody who's heading in the direction that you want to head in, how would their list be? In what order would they be in? So if honesty is maybe number 6 on the list, then you put it at 6 and you value it at 6. Ultimately, you'll still do everything in that space, but you'll have a different appreciation when you start doing them, when you start living them, instead of just going through life or going through your sport. And this is really, really important from a sports perspective, as much as it is about life. If you did this with your sport, I can guarantee you, your results will shift to much higher. And if they're not, then you just shift your values around. Because if you, for an example, were an athlete and you valued health and vitality or health and fitness at number 6 or 7 or 8, are you going to be able to produce the type of things that higher level athletes that put health and vitality, fitness at number 1 or 2? What do you guys reckon? What would you say to that?
Yeah, how could you argue with it?
No.
That's what I would like to say to that. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no argument that I don't think anyone could put up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But how many times do they put skills first? How many times do you see athletes put skills first? You can only do your skills if you're fit enough to do them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you now coaching at national level, Mark, you would see this from a very different point of view now.
Absolutely.
Plus going through your story of how majority of your career was you were a lot more overweight than what you are now. You're slim and terrific now, but you know, how many kilos did you lose?
50.
50 kilos.
Yeah.
Wow. And now your skills, when you after you lost that weight and you start to put that health and fitness and your self-worth a little higher up your list, whether you knew it or not, you were doing that.
Yep.
How were the skills for you then?
Easy.
Yeah.
Much easier. Yeah. And you're exactly right. I didn't know that I did that. I didn't know I put that shift and changed that value, but of course I did.
Yep.
And I think that's the key is like you say, get a piece of paper, slap them all down. Every single thing that you do, list it down, and everything that you value, everything that you can't have too many, I don't think.
No, I agree. And it would shift, and once it shifted your skills got better, more refined, more precision focused, wouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then your career obviously took a different turn for the better, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably extended by a couple of years, I would have thought. Yeah.
And that's the point I'm trying to make here is, yes, that's an awesome story. You lost 50 kilos and you did all this great stuff and awesome work. However, at the end of the day, if health and fitness is higher up your list, if you got your list of what you value in your sport, what you value in your life, you will do that in that order. If you keep it in mind, keep that list, stick it up on the mirror, stick it up in your shower, wherever you've got to do it, and just say it, and say it with volition, say it with power, say it with energy, with emotion, and it shifts from and Tony Robbins is massive on this. It shifts from an affirmation to an incantation, where it's real. You're living the words. You're not just saying the words. Yes, I focus on the action, not the result. Where if I say it like, focus on the action and not the result, and I just keep saying it in that way, I'm already getting, look at the hairs on my arm standing up here, and that's that power, and it drives you. And now no longer is just a value, it's a driving force. And so that's where I think values are pivotal in life, even more so as an athlete. Is there anything you guys want to add to that?
No, you summed that up really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
No, I couldn't agree more. And just to touch on, to give my sort of personal story to that, if you had to ask me if I worked hard at baseball, the answer is absolutely. Did I work in a way that gave me the best chance of succeeding? Probably not, because I didn't know what I valued. So I wouldn't go to the gym like other guys would, but I would hit for an extra hour, or I'd take ground balls for an extra half an hour. So was I working hard? Yeah. But I probably wasn't working smart enough. And that comes back to what we value or where we place our energy. So having those values and the understanding, like what you're saying, the ability to put focus into different areas that are going to allow you to be holistically better off is super important.
Yeah, definitely couldn't be said any better than that. So we're going to end it here. Thank you guys again. Another awesome conversation. And I trust that everybody else is out there just getting so much value. If you have any questions, again, send them to support@goalcentral.com.au.
So until next time, keep striving for greatness.